Welcome to the American Dream. I'm your host, Jonathan Goforth with Keller Williams Platinum Partners. This is a behind-the-scenes look at filming the TV show Selling Kansas City. I am honored to be standing in front of the Harry S. Truman Presidential Library and Museum. This is what we're filming today, and so you're going to see a behind-the-scenes look. This is not the TV show, but today you're going to see how a TV show is filmed. Please subscribe, please give this video a like, because you're going to want to be notified when the TV episode comes out. It's coming out on the CW. It airs on Sunday mornings. This will probably air middle of March 2023, and it's going to come out on streaming services, Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire. So make sure you subscribe, give this video a like. The reason we're here is because the Truman Library has been completely renovated. It has spent $30 million to completely reconstruct everything on the inside. The museum closed for a while they rebuilt every single exhibit. Many of the exhibits here are now interactive, making this what is now the nicest presidential library and museum in the United States. If you haven't been here in a few years, you've got to come back. You'll be amazed what you're about to see on the inside. This is a replica of the Liberty Bell. Something that I'm really excited about this TV show is at the Harry S. Truman Library and Museum, there is a secret part that is not open to the public. The special archives are private, under a lot of security. The public never gets to go in the archives, but thanks to the TV show, we are going to take you in there. We've been granted special access to take the film crew into the archives to show you the secret place. This is so much better than watching National Treasure, because this is real. We're going to take you in a real secret part of the Truman Library.
All right, I'm rolling in action whenever you're ready.
Welcome to the American Dream. I'm your host, Jonathan Goforth, and this is what makes Kansas City such a great place to live.
Okay, cool.
There's a special section here at the Truman Library that the public never gets to see. It's under tight security. It's called the archives. I'm excited because we've been given special permission to film in the archives and take you into a secret part here at the Truman Library. Cassie, thank you so much for allowing us to film here in the archives.
All right, I am recording.
There is a special section here at the Truman Library that is not on the public tour. The public does not get to come here. It's called the archives. And I'm excited because it has, oh, we gotta start over. Retake.
Well, it's good to be back home in what I call the center of the world, Independence, Missouri.
Welcome to the American Dream. I'm your host, Jonathan Goforth, and this is what makes Kansas City such a great place to live. The Harry S. Truman Presidential Library and Museum has just finished a $30 million renovation. There are all new exhibits throughout the museum, and many of the exhibits are now interactive. This is Cassie Pekarsky. She is the Director of Strategic Initiatives here at the Truman Library. What you have done here is amazing. You know, this has now become what is possibly the nicest Presidential Library in the United States.
Well, thank you for that compliment. We like to agree. Here in this museum, you can see the most dramatic chapters, arguably, in U.S. history. The first of which is the dropping of the atomic bomb. So this is the safety plug from Fat Man. So it would have been in the bomb to make sure that it didn't go off while they were transporting it to the drop site. And now it is the centerfold key object in our atomic bomb gallery.
So this is the famous "The Buck Stops Here" that was on the desk in the Oval Office. But what's really neat that I didn't know, if you look on the back of this, so the front of it's famous, "The Buck Stops Here," but if you come around and you look on the back of it, it says, "I'm from Missouri," which that is so neat. That is so neat. Come in here and check out one of the best parts of the Truman Library. So this stayed here. I mean, everything else is new, the full renovation, but this is so neat. This is a replica of the White House, or the Oval Office in the White House back from 1950 as to how it really looked back then. So you're gonna see this filmed on the TV show, and this will be airing on the CW, and then it comes out with streaming services on Roku, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV, as well as a lot of other social media. But isn't this neat? I mean, they could film movies in here as authentic as this is. And then, Cassie, you were saying the globe is a gift.
From General Eisenhower.
Yes. This is a replica of the Oval Office back from 1950.
Many people look at the room and think it's incomplete because there isn't any furniture in the middle, which is what we're used to from looking at pictures of the Oval Office today. But actually during the Truman administration and administrations before that, they didn't have furniture in the middle of the room because this is where they held their press conferences. So they had to have room for all of the press to gather.
We're in another special brand new exhibit here at the Truman Library. But first I want to mention two famous houses here in Kansas City. The first one is the Truman Home. It's just a few blocks here from the Truman Library in Independence. That is where President Truman and his wife Bess lived. The other famous house is in Grandview, Missouri. That's the Truman Farm Home. I want you to tell me about this exhibit. This is about the White House.
So when Truman first moved into the White House, he jokingly wrote home that it was so noisy that he thought the ghosts of former presidents were walking around. When they had the building evaluated by architects, they realized that it was literally standing out of habit. Up above us is the beam that broke under the weight of his daughter's piano that was in her sitting room, and that's when they decided enough was enough. The White House had to be renovated. It would have been cheaper to knock the whole thing down. Instead, they decided to completely gut it and rebuild it from the inside out.
There's a special section here at the Truman Library that is not open for the public to view. It's called the Archives. It's under very tight security. The public never gets to come in here, but I'm so excited because we've been granted special access to show you a very special secret part of the Truman Library. Cassie, who gets to come in here?
Well, as you can see, we have some researchers in here today. So they're all people that are interested in learning more about the Truman administration, whether they're doing research for a dissertation or writing a book or working on a documentary. They've all come in today with a specific purpose to look at some specific papers from the Truman administration. So Truman worked at the library almost daily from 1957 until 1966. He had an office here. He met with dignitaries, JFK, LBJ. He wrote his memoirs in his office here. Actually, when the library first opened, if you called to ask for the hours in admission, you might just get the president on the phone. It was several months into the library being open that the director caught wind that if you called on a Saturday, you would get Truman. And he never identified himself. He would just answer the question and hang up the phone. Eventually, once the director found out, they decided to put some staff members on duty on the weekends so that Truman didn't have to answer the phone. But one of Truman's favorite things to do was to come out and speak to visitors. So if there was a school group in the museum, he would come out and give impromptu lectures in the auditorium on the importance of the presidency and democracy and being civically engaged. So it was Truman's desire to be buried here when they were reviewing plans for his funeral, which was 60 pages long and called Operation Missouri. He jokingly said that it was going to be a great event, that he was sorry to miss it. When they were talking about him being buried in the courtyard, he said that he wanted to be buried here, so if he felt like getting up and going to work, he could, which of course his wife did not think was very funny.
And so this is the office that was set up for him while he came here and worked all the time.
So this was his working office after the presidency.
Well, the new entrance is so nice. Every exhibit here is really nice. I like how interactive they are. Makes the learning so much easier, a lot more fun. Cassie is taking us into Harry Truman's office.
So starting in 1957, this is where Truman came to work every day. He definitely was a fan of tchotchkes. As you can see, he had to use the pull-out drawer to write anything on his desk because it was so filled with things. But on that side desk, he did write his memoirs and entertained dignitaries and politicians that came to visit him at the library. He would meet with them in this room. So John F. Kennedy, Lyndon Johnson, Richard Nixon, Ronald Reagan, all were in attendance here at some point in the library. Jack Benny also came and did a television special with Truman, some of which was filmed in this room.
That's amazing.
Then the exhibit surrounding it just tells a little bit about the Truman Library, how it came to be, what Truman's desires were for it. He really believed that it should focus on the institution of the presidency, inspiring people to participate in their democracy instead of serving as a shrine or memorial to him. And then talks a little bit about the holdings of the library.
Security here is impressive. There's cameras everywhere. There's guards everywhere. It's security is amazing.
Well, we have all of the documents, photographs, and artifacts that were created during the Truman administration. Also, all of the gifts of state that were given to the president are here and came to his presidential library. So we have some really fabulous artifacts, some of which are hidden away in a vault. We have a copy of Mein Kampf signed by Hitler. We have a set of Stalin's cigarettes that were taken from the table at Potsdam. Some really incredible artifacts.
And those are all kept in the vault.
All kept in the vault.
Yes.
And then, we have some really random things. Like we have a pilot's license from Amelia Earhart with her signature on it. Just some really incredible things that were either gifted to the president or acquired by the library afterwards to help tell the story of his administration.
Huh, wow. So was there Secret Service here when he would come and work?
No, so former presidents did not get Secret Service agents until John F. Kennedy was assassinated. So for a significant portion of Truman's post-presidential years, he did not have a Secret Service. And would walk freely around town. And I think that's one of the things that's so special about Truman is that he came back to the life he was living before the presidency and lived it in the exact same way that he was living it before. There's a great story that his grandson will tell about his grandmother Bess getting on Truman about not mowing the lawn. And he was so annoyed that she kept heckling him about it that he finally decided to mow the lawn with his shirt off on Sunday morning. And she was so horrified that not only was he mowing the lawn on a Sunday morning instead of being at church, but that he had put on this display for all of the neighbors that he never had to mow the lawn ever again.
This is one of the brand new interactive exhibits. Cassie, tell us about this one.
So this is our Hard Problems of Peace globe. Even though the hard-fought battle of war is now over, the work has really just begun in trying to figure out how to set up the world for a long-term peace so that World War II doesn't turn into World War III. This globe is showing everything that's happening in the world. On the outside galleries are Truman's solutions to those issues, and they're really structures that are still being used for peace today. One example of that is NATO.
If there is anything inevitable in the future, it is the will of the people of the world for freedom and for peace.
In addition to NATO, Truman really did a lot of things to set up the structure of the world and of our nation as a whole. One of those things was his decision to desegregate the military, which he did right before the 1948 election.
So this is some more behind the scenes footage. So we're in here just walking around. We finished the real TV show. And so now we're just walking around and we just noticed on one of these screens, there are screens everywhere, these fascinating information. There is an image of the Nolan family. I'm assuming Nolan Road here in Independence is named for the Nolan family. How does this fit in with the Truman family?
So you're right. The Nolans were Truman's aunt and uncle. And so they actually lived across the street from his future wife, Bess. So when he was courting Bess, he was living on the Grandview farm at the time. And of course, back then, it took a long time to travel by horse. So he would come into town to Independence on horse to take Bess out for dates.
Oh, wow.
Oftentimes it would be too late at night or too dark for him to turn around and go back to the Grandview farm. So he would stay overnight at his aunt and uncle's house, the Nolans, who lived across the street. There's actually another interesting story about the Nolans and Bess. So Truman had become aware of his wife when they were little kids in Sunday school, fell in love with her then, and pined after her the rest of his days. When he got older, he was visiting his aunt and uncle, and they actually had a cake plate that they had of the Wallaces that needed to be returned. And Truman said, oh, let me do it.
Oh my gosh.
So he took it over, and that was his reintroduction to Bess, and their courtship started very shortly after that.
Wow. That's really interesting.
Downstairs in the basement, we have a couple of different Truman vehicles. The first is a farm buggy that Truman used on the Grandview farm. He took meticulous records, so he purchased it for $6 in 1914. Then Truman was a big Chrysler fan, so we have two separate Chryslers. He owned many throughout his life. Actually, after the presidency, someone offered him a Japanese car, and he said, "No, thank you. I will stick to my Chryslers." This one is interesting. They paid an extra $92 to have a radio and a heater installed in November of 1940.
Thank you for watching this very special episode, behind the scenes look at how you film the American Dream selling Kansas City. This is what shows you some of the wonderful things about what makes Kansas City such a great place to live. The Harry S. Truman Presidential Library and Museum is something you should come back and see because of the extensive reconstruction of the inside of the museum. This is one of the top tourist attractions in all of Kansas City and definitely well worth coming back to see. Check out their website for their hours of operation. This TV show is going to pop up on your screen now, so you can see the TV show segment right now. If you click on that, this is what will be airing on the CW, and then it comes out on streaming sites of Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire, and thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe, please give this video a like, and thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you on the next episode of The American Dream.